What I would say is just that even though the process or just the situation was kind of a bad, I feel like we turned it into a positive, and I feel like not only me, however, we were all touched by her story and what she was able to overcome. However, I'm glad that she overcame it, and already I've seen the positive impact that it has on people's life, whether that's like getting somebody to believe in themselves or believe in their purpose or getting closer to God. So that was just like one of the biggest takeaways from the whole situation, how like great God is, and how just her personal story alone, how many people it can touch and how many people it can help.
On March, I think it was March 9th, but somewhere in early March is when I was with my speech therapist, and I met with her every day for an hour. I had a trach, and there's some kind of, I forget the name of it, but they put on your trach and you're able to speak. So that was the first time I spoke. I remember the time was around 3:30 because I looked at the time and I was so excited, and I was able to say my name. And then slowly they kept changing the cap, I think they call it cap, where I can use different vocals and be able to say different things. And it took so much effort to speak. And then over time, I eventually got my trach removed, and I was like.
Well, my name is Chance Habamungu. I just be chilling. I'm a good guy. I'm a fun guy. To Clementine, I'm just her little brother. So I would say we're pretty close. Grew up together all the way from, we're from Africa. So all the way from Africa here to America. And yeah.
My name is Clementine, or Clementine, and I'm from Grand Rapids. I am 25 years old, and I went to Grand Valley State University. On February 20th of this year, 2019, I was involved in a horrific car accident. I was hit on the driver's side by a cement truck. The accident caused the cement truck to roll over, and I immediately blacked out, and I woke up in the hospital.
The news about Clementine's accident, I was sleeping in my bed. Yeah, and it was like 1 a.m, and I just heard like a loud bang on the door when it was like the police officers, and then I hear my dad calling me. So he's like just yelling my name from upstairs. I was like downstairs in the basement, and then I came up running, and then that's when they kind of gave us the news that she had gotten into the accident.
For the car accident, my memory does not remember the car accident itself. So I don't remember being hit. I don't remember exactly. I don't have in my mind exactly what happened. But the guy who actually called 911 and who had first responders come, he later found me, and he came to the hospital, and he was able to tell me exactly what happened. So what happened is I got hit on the driver's side door could not open, so when he came rushing, he opened the passenger side, and at that time I had long blonde braids, and the first thing he noticed after that car accident is that my hair was all over the dashboard because they were really long, and he told me to move my hand if I can hear him, and I didn't, and he went for my pulse, and I didn't have a pulse, so he panicked, and it was February, so it's cold, and then out of nowhere I just gasped for air, and then the ambulance were there then because they came really fast, and then they took me to the ICU at St. Mary's. In the ICU, at first I didn't know where I was. So the nurses told me that I had been involved in a car accident, I was in ICU, and I was in a critical condition. I didn't understand where that was, and of course I couldn't move, but I didn't know the severity of my injury until I saw it on Facebook when people were showing me what's going on, and people were talking about how I am in a critical condition and this happened.
It was hard, reason being I wasn't sure how severe of an accident it was. However, right away, just put on my shoes, put on the coat, and just went straight out the door to go straight to the hospital where she was. At the time, like I said, I didn't realize how severe it was. So I was just kind of thinking like, okay, we'll go to the hospital, you know what I'm saying? She'll get a checkup and she'll come back. So it hadn't really hit me as much. And I think during the process, that's when it kind of started to hit me.
When I woke up, when I realized where I were, they have already done 4 surgeries. So when I woke up, and they told me everything they did, it was hard for me to understand because I wasn't aware. I was in a medically induced coma at that time, so I wasn't aware what was going on. But when I woke up, my family was there, the whole community was there. It was so many people in that building that they got in trouble because there was so many of them. When I woke up, that's when the nurses told me exactly what had happened. I was in ICU, and I was aware at that moment where I was, but I didn't understand the severity of my injury. But my family was over me, and they were just, I can see that they were relieved that the fact that I woke up, because they were told that, I might not be able to wake up. And then when they told me I was in an accident, of course, I don't think I panicked. I don't remember exactly what went on, but at that moment, there was just so much going on that I didn't take the time to panic or to be sad, or I didn't process exactly what was happening when they told me. It didn't hit me until later on and during my time there. Actually, because I have friends who kept asking me like, where were you coming from at that time of the accident? Why did you go there? And I was trying to explain to them that a car accident can happen to anyone, anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you're coming from or where you're going, because it's in the past. Of course, if I go back, I can change it, but it's in the past and you can't change it, and it can happen whether you're coming from work, from the gym, anywhere. So it doesn't really matter where I was going at what time. The fact that I got into a car accident, so let's move on and try to fix this. And that was my focus from my accident, from my time in the hospital, just focusing on getting better and not dwelling on what could happen, what I should have done, or what could done to prevent this from happening, because that's not realistic. The accident actually made me, it gives strength to my faith. It strengthened my faith in God more than it was before. I always knew God was real and God existed, but the accident emphasized the fact that He does exist and He's real and He's here. And the reason why the accident emphasized that is because I had more than one reason of why my life should have ended on the scene or later on in the hospital, and I had so many things that went wrong that should have damaged me, but those things didn't. And that's just proof even more to me that God is real and He works miracles, because things did not make sense to me and to the doctors. So it was beyond me and it was beyond them.
What I missed about her while she was in the hospital, not much really, reason being. Not much really, reason being, even while she was in the hospital, she was still just kind of like being herself. And even though it was like, obviously physically she wasn't there, however, just like the type of joy she brings from people. So I guess one thing I can say I missed about her, just not being able to like go to her house and see her, or just not able to wait for her to like come over, or just see her like outside doing the things that she normally does.
I focused on being better, so I was in the ICU for 2 weeks, from February 20th to March 5th, and so that's just 2 weeks in the ICU. So my focus was to just get better, and when I was in the ICU at St. Mary's, they were focusing on removing me to a different facility where I can start working in rehab. And that's when I went to Maryfield Rehabilitation Hospital. I was in ICU. I had so many injury done or that happened to me. I wasn't able to just move my whole body. I could only move my left arm, and I broke my jaw in 2 places. So that means I couldn't eat or drink. I just couldn't put food in my mouth. I also couldn't breathe, so I had to have a trach. And I couldn't eat, so I had to have a feeding tube. I broke my femur, and I had a stroke as well through one of the 7 surgeries that I received. And just so many other things. I had a traumatic brain injury as well, and that was the biggest worry for my father, since they said she might not be herself again. And then those were all worrisome injuries. So when I went to Maryfield, the focus was on me being able to practicing to walk again and talk. So I had therapy. I had speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, recreation therapy, and others that I can't remember on top of my head. So I had therapy from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, except for like 1 day a week, a Saturday or Sunday. So I was in a Maryfield from March 5th to April 26th. And the reason why I was at St. Mary's, it was to get back to, it was a rehab / hospital. So they were taking care of my medical needs and also getting me to get back to walking and talking and getting back to my normal life. But the reason why I went there is because when I was in the ICU, there was a high possibility that I could be paralyzed, and I was not, because I tore my C1 and C2 spine. And there was just all this possibility of things that could go wrong, and it didn't go wrong. And that is why I got to go to Maryfield for rehab.
It's definitely a miracle. Just kind of like everybody said, just like the doctor said, she had a 0.1 chance of living, you know what I'm saying? So not even 0.1. And in the instance you don't believe that's a miracle, then you just don't know what miracles are. Reason being, it could have went a lot of different ways, and a lot of time, not only during the accident, however, during her procedure in the hospital. So it was definitely a miracle the whole entire time.
Yes, I know for a fact that it's a miracle. The fact that I'm alive today and I'm walking and talking is a miracle. I
think the hardest moment for me, I think, is just kind of watching her as she went through the process. Reason being, it's kind of hard when you're literally not able to like move your body. So it's like her physical body, she just couldn't move, she couldn't do anything. However, you know, she's like awake and she's seeing all this happen. So I kind of felt for her, and I just like the whole time you kind of see in her eyes how much she just wanted to get better. So yeah, that was like the main thing, just kind of seeing her like be in that situation just made me feel really bad, and just kind of made me want to do everything I could to be able to get her in a better position back to how she was supposed to be.
I had so many hard moments. Some of the hardest moments I had while I was in the hospital was the fact that I could not get up by myself and go to the restroom by myself. Every single time I had to go to the restroom, I had to call a nurse or a nurse there to come take me there. And I couldn't do anything for myself, so they had to do everything for me. And that is, for people who know me, they know that's not me. I like to be busy and I like to move around. So it was very, very difficult that I had to rely 100% on someone else to do everything for me. That was the hardest. And the hardest thing at home when I was discharged was still the same thing, not being able to be independent. So putting my help in someone else, my needs in someone else's hand, was the hardest thing. I was in the hospital from February 20th to April 25th, so 8 weeks and 6 days.
Obviously she's still good physically. She's running, she's walking, you know what I'm saying? She's starting to annoy people again, so that's how you know she's back to herself. However, I definitely see her change as far as her life and just kind of how she lives in her life every day. I feel like now she lives with more purpose. However, I feel like even now she kind of, reason being, sometimes with everyday life we kind of get used to it, kind of get used to the motions, and then and sometimes like with that awakening it's kind of like, oh wow, and I'm saying it kind of sets a bigger picture. So I think the biggest change with her is just mentally seeing that life is kind of short, so now she's able to kind of like focus on the things that she loves most and the things that are more important to her and the things that are on her heart, and just kind of like the purpose that God gave her. So it's definitely been a big change. However, I feel like it's the beginning of an even bigger change.
I clearly feel like I have changed after the accident, because there are so many reasons why I feel like I have changed. I don't feel like I know I have changed, and the one reason is because I 100% believe that just God spared my life because I still have a purpose. And my biggest fear when I left the hospital was like, what if I never know what the purpose is that He has for me? But I'm at peace because I know that I will understand it. Like I'm at peace knowing that it's gonna come to me. And in a few years, I want to be able to live my life knowing, oh, I'm fulfilling the purpose. I know why God saved my life. And the reason why He saved my life is because He's not done with me, and I have so much to do. Surviving the accident is a second chance, but also, yeah, I do feel like it's a second chance because not every human being gets to experience this or the gift of a second chance at life. So I do feel like it's a second chance. But with my second chance, I plan to live out my purpose. I've always wanted to live out my purpose even before the accident. But like I said, this accident has emphasized that for me. So I want every day that I live with this second chance, I want to be able to live knowing that I am fulfilling my plan, or my plan that God had for me on this earth. I want to be able to live like that. And I don't want to go a day with regrets. So I'm also, after the accident, I feel so fearless and nothing scares me, which is, I don't know if it's dangerous or nothing scares me. I'm willing to do things that brought fear to me in the past. Not right now, they don't. And like I was telling you guys in the car, I would be so willing to even like move out the country and be somewhere like that I never thought I would live before. And only this accident just changed my view on life as well. And I think that's one way it changed my view of life. The fact that me, a 25-year-old living in the U.S., would be willing to just go somewhere else and be there for a while and live a completely different life, because I know that it will bring so much transformation to me as a person and to just the people around me as well. And that's why I'll be willing to do that.
I learned a lot through the process. I was there often, and one thing I learned was like the power of positivity. Reason being, I think one of the main reasons she was able to recover so well is, one, she was like in good physical health before. However, more than anything, it's just that she kept a positive mindset. You know what I'm saying? At the time, I was really big on just letting everybody know, like, stay positive. And she was probably the one that didn't need to hear as much as everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people come in there and they'll have their worry and doubt and attempt to like put it on her. However, the whole time, like most of the time, she was staying positive and she was just kind of like pushing through. So that's something I'm definitely proud of her for.
That's a good question. When I was in the hospital, even though it was really the lowest I've been my whole entire life, but it was also the best time I had. My family and my best friends, or friends in general, all came together. So every single day I was in the hospital, my two worlds came together, and my friends got to know my family at a personal level, vice versa. My family got to know my friends, and the most important was that my dad got to meet all my friends, and all my friends got to see my dad and my mom and my grandma, and they also got to learn a little bit more about me as well, saying like, oh, I see where this comes from, I see where this comes from. So it was a joy, it was pure joy to see that on a daily basis, and I miss that so much. I would say that I would have to involve God, because honestly I believe that if you know in your heart that God is enough, then life is just smoothly knowing that He's enough. You can fulfill your purpose, and this hardship that you're going through is not meant to end you or break you. It's meant to make you stronger. And when you go through this, you're going to look back at this and understand so much about your faith and about you as a person, about what God is capable of. So this is not like a end. This is you in the middle, you're passing through, and this is gonna build you instead of destroying you. And honestly, I think it's a battle you're fighting, and it's like stand up and fight. Because if you don't stand up and fight, you're going to lose. Just like any fight, if you don't stand up and fight, you're going to lose. And this is like a battle. You stand up and fight. And what's the best part about it is that God is on your side. He's on your team. So you're obviously going to win. I'll share how... so when I was in the hospital, because I was in the hospital for about almost 3 months, I had just wonderful people who just checked on me a lot and visited me, and just they made me feel so loved. And I had days where I cried a lot when I was in the hospital, but I had a lot of joyful moments. And when I got out of the hospital, I wanted to do like a celebration of life. So 2 weeks ago, I had a party where I just invited those who were so close to me during that time. A lot of people came to visit me. I wanted to be like a small intimate celebration, and I called it the biggest recovery update yet, because I feel like we had to update people on how I was doing the whole time. So this 2 weeks ago, I had everyone come, and it was just a celebration of life. That was the title of the event, celebration of life, and just being excited about life and living life and living life in purpose, and just also to show them what a miracle I am and what God is capable of, and just all that good stuff. March, I think it was March 9th, but somewhere in early March is when I was with my speech therapist, and I met with her every day for an hour. I had a trach, and there is some kind of, I forget the name of it, but they put on your trach and you're able to speak. So that was the first time I spoke. I remember the time was around 3:30, because I looked at the time and I was so excited, and I was able to say my name. And then slowly they kept changing the cap, I think they call it cap, where I can use different vocals and be able to say different things. And it took so much effort to speak. And then over time, I eventually got my trach removed, and I was able to speak again. Also, I left the hospital. I remember it was a Friday, April 25th, I believe, or 6th. My friend was getting married that Sunday, and before I got into an accident, she had asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. And then when I got into that, and I already picked out the dress and everything, and then when I got into the accident, I knew I was not going to be in her wedding anymore, because I wasn't able to walk. And I had a halo as well. I had a harness around my head that was 8 pounds, and I knew my dress wouldn't fit with the halo. So she would come to the St. Mary, and we'll practice how I'm going to walk down the aisle with my wheelchair. So we would practice. And then I graduated from my wheelchair, and I had a walker. So we started practicing with my walker, how I'm going to walk down the aisle, and how the guy I have to work with, where he will stand, and how he's going to help me. So I left the hospital on the Friday. I graduated. They call it graduation. And then that Sunday, I was able to be in her wedding, and my dress was fit me, and I was able to walk without my walker or my wheelchair, and that was nice. So I finished therapy from Mary Free Bed, so I'm no longer going there, but I'm still doing intense therapy. It's called Return to Running, because I am a runner. I really like to run, but because I couldn't walk, I had to start from scratch. So what I'm doing at the Y is this program called Return Back to Running, and what they're doing is just monitoring my running, and I have so much to improve on, but I love running. And in the month of May 9th, 2020, I plan to run a 10K, and that'll be my first time running a long distance after the accident, so I have to prove myself, and I plan to continue to run in the future, and hopefully one day run a marathon. That's my dream. That's always been my dream. Also, I plan to return to work maybe in February, a year after my accident. And also I plan to do things that I've never done before, or that I always postponed, and that's to travel and just visit some family and just continue living life.
I would tell her that she's awesome, that she's a superstar, and she's definitely a miracle. And I know that God has a lot for her going forward in her life. So just to embrace it and to just keep loving people like she's done. And I'm always going to be here for her, since she's always been here for me. So I'll just tell her simply that I love her, and I hope God continues to use her. What I would say is just that even though the process or just the situation was kind of a bad, I feel like we turned it into a positive, and I feel like not only me, however, we were all touched by her story and what she was able to overcome. However, I'm glad that she overcame it, and already I've seen the positive impact that it has on people's life, whether that's like getting somebody to believe in themselves or believe in their purpose or getting closer to God. So that was just like one of the biggest takeaways from the whole situation, how like great God is, and how just her personal story alone, how many people it can touch and how many people it can help.